The question is Israel in violation of international law? Today I'm going to review an article for you, one that is so anti-Semitic, so horrific, it passes all boundaries of human dignity and stoops to new lows even for Israel haters. Not only does it fail to condemn the jihadist terrorist who murdered Batsheva Nigri last week, but it goes even further and claims that Batsheva herself was the one guilty of the definition of terrorist, simply for the act of daring to live and settle in the heartland of Israel. Imagine that. A Jew living in Judea is now defined as a terrorist. Since today's story deals with the topic of international law, we're also going to take a brief look at why some of the world considers Israel to be in violation of international law, and maybe whether those accusations are true or not. I'm Luke, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, make sure you hit subscribe and let us know down in the comments below if you are a new viewer, if you are a new subscriber. Also, we have a link in the description to join our breaking news WhatsApp group. We have hundreds of people already on that group. If you want to be the first one to get our content each and every day, join the WhatsApp group. It's completely free. Link is down in the description. So, came across an article about Israel. Surprise, surprise. Israel and the Palestinians, right? This article, though, it stooped to such new lows. You know, normally we talk about new heights. This is a new low that the website doesn't even, it's not even worth mentioning their name. The writer, it's not worth mentioning her name. I will put the source link down below in case you want to check it out for yourself. But as far as I can tell, this website is dedicated to talking about Israel and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, although they seem to be very much bent on the side of just blasting Israel and blaming them for everything. I would not imagine they have a lot of readers, especially because you start clicking around and you have to be some kind of member for the site. But this article is just so horrific, and it contains some of the such horrific blood libels that I know so many people around the world believe in and propagate that I want to go through some quotes from this article to bring you the truth of what's actually happening. So the headline of the article, the title of the article is "All Human Deaths Are a Tragedy." However, calling illegal Israeli settlers innocent civilians is grossly inaccurate and unhelpful. Now, first couple lines of the article will reveal their true intentions. Hang tight. Quote, Batsheva Nigri, who died yesterday after coming under gunfire from Palestinians who are rising up against a brutal, illegal occupation. Their grammar is even off there, but Batsheva was a Jewish mother living in Judea in the Hebron Hills who was murdered in a terrorist attack about 1 week ago, or 8 or 9 days ago from the date of this recording. On the road, she hitchhiked. Her daughter was in the back seat, miraculously survived. Their car was surrounded, and 22 bullets were fired into their car, and she was murdered. The article goes on to say, Miss Nigri is thought to have made Aliyah from Italy. I don't know if that's true. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anything about that. But regardless, whether she was born in Israel and made Aliyah from another country, she was a Jewish mother living in Judea. The article goes on to say, quote, she made a choice to go and live in Israel proper or to live in the West Bank on illegally occupied Palestinian land. Now, besides making some false statements in that sentence, I just had a really weird question as I was researching. What really is the difference between Israel proper and the so-called West Bank, when a lot of times people call Israel proper the territory beyond the Green Line, right? And then territory inside Judea and Samaria, because Israel has not declared sovereignty over this area, and it's not under regular Israeli law. It's under a different rule of law, and there's mixed Palestinian Arabs and Jewish Israelis living here. They call that, you know, the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. People call it, you know, occupied territories. I just had a thought. What really is the difference between Israel proper and the so-called West Bank, right? Because at one time, both of these areas, each side of the Green Line, were part of ancient Israel. At one time, both of these areas were part of the Ottoman Turkish Empire rule. At one time, they were both under the British mandate. And we could go on and on, like throughout history, how many different people groups lived here, which, by the way, Jewish people lived here continually. There was always Jewish people that lived in both of these areas for the last 3,000 plus years, more than 3,000 years. Maybe is there a difference just because Jordan was in control of Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem for 19 years between 1948 and 1967? That doesn't really make any sense. Anyways, I want to continue. The article says, quote, a civilian is someone who, for example, in Ukraine is going about their daily life in Kiev and they get targeted by Russian bombs or artillery. And then it says they have a legal right to be on their land. Already, the article is trying to invoke your sympathy by comparing normal people to Ukrainians who are being invaded by Russia because Ukraine has most of the world's sympathy at the moment. And obviously, Israeli settlers are not normal people, and obviously, they don't have a right to be on their land. I thought it was interesting that they used the word their land. Article goes on, quote, Israeli illegal settlers on Palestinian land in the West Bank have no such rights because the Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention states, the occupying power shall not deport or transfer parts of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. It also prohibits the individual or mass forcible transfers as well as deportations of protected persons from occupied territories. And the article goes on to say, which basically means that Israelis living in the settlements in Palestine have no right to be there to begin with. The fact that they're there renders them criminals because they are partaking in illegality. I want to tell you about one of the best ways to support Israel right now. You should join the Heartland Challenge. Pick one item that you use on a regular basis and commit to only purchasing that item from Judea and Samaria. If you're wondering how in the world you can purchase products from Judea and Samaria, our friends at Blessed by Israel make it super easy for you. They source incredible boutique products from small businesses located in Judea and Samaria, and they ship those products straight to your doorstep. We've partnered with Blessed by Israel to promote the Heartland Challenge, encouraging supporters of Israel all around the world to commit to using certain products only from Judea and Samaria. So whether it's olive oil, tea, soap, ceramics, or something else, Blessed by Israel is encouraging everyone to buy what you believe in and then share that message with your community and friends. The time has come to build and invest in Israel's heartland. Join the Heartland Challenge and start making a difference today. To find out more, go to Blessed by Israel. That's blessedbyisrael.com to find out more. Use the code INVEST at checkout for $5 off your first order. Again, that's blessedbyisrael.com, or link is down in the description below. Guys, we're going to talk about whether or not Israel is actually in violation of international law, including the Fourth Geneva Convention. But I want to get through this. A couple of comments, okay? Where is this place called Palestine? Can you find it on a map? Okay, maybe if you have the right map, you can find it, because in today's world, you can find anything you want. And show me where in history Israel deported or transferred parts of their civilian population, especially forcibly, into land they supposedly occupied. Also, Israel's not occupying the so-called West Bank. They liberated the area after winning a defensive war in 1967 from the country of Jordan, not Palestine. Jordan, okay? Never was a Palestine. Still isn't a country of Palestine, okay? But the article goes on. A critically important dimension is added in the equation once we factor in the legal rights under international law of the illegally occupied to armed resistance. Okay. Now, since the article started out about the murder of Batsheva, now it's talking about the critically important dimension about the rights, the legal rights of people that are living under occupation to armed resistance. Are they about to advocate murder? Article says this right is confirmed under the United Nations Resolution 3743, dated December 3rd, 1982. It, quote, reaffirms the legitimacy of the struggle of peoples for independence, territorial integrity, national unity, and liberation from colonial and foreign domination and foreign occupation by all available means, including armed struggle. So maybe they are actually advocating for murder, and they're saying it was okay to murder Batsheva. So, leading up to Israel's War of Independence in 1948, there was close to 1 million Jews that lost their homes and were kicked out of Arab countries all throughout the Middle East, okay? Arabs in Israel fled their homes, They were encouraged. They were incentivized to flee by their Arab leaders. And some of them, yes, were expelled or kicked out from certain parts of Israel because a war was happening. And when war happens, there are people that lose their homes everywhere. But guess what? The war was happening in Israel because they were attacked by 6 Arab countries. Jewish refugees were not kicked, nearly 1 million of them were not kicked out of Arab countries because of a war happening. They were just kicked out because they were Jews. Secondly, after all of the dust settled in Israel's multiple wars, the armistice lines, the green line, the borders of today as we know it were drawn. This does not make Israel an occupier or give the Arabs any so-called right of return on the right to armed resistance because the Arabs lost their homes in Israel proper, Judea and Samaria. Jews lost their homes all over the entire Middle East. The big difference is that Jews were kicked out simply for being Jews. Some Arabs lost their homes, and many of them voluntarily fled because they were scared because there was a war going on, because 6 overwhelming Arab countries were attacking Israel, okay? And when war happens, the dust settles, borders are drawn, armistice lines are drawn, and there's usually new territory. And by the way, every single one of those Arab countries that attacked Israel, none of them were named Palestine. So tell me, what are we even talking about? Who is Israel occupying Judea and Samaria from? East Jerusalem from? Who are they going to? Who does the world want them to return this area to? But let's go on because we don't want to spend too much time on this. The article goes on. As we've argued on previous occasions at I almost said the name of the website. The circa 700,000 Israeli settlers living in Judea and Samaria are not there peacefully, though they are there through violence, terror, murder of the native Palestinians, either directly perpetrated by the settlers themselves or done on behalf of them via the Israeli occupation forces, which works by keeping Palestinians under Israeli martial law. Lies, 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 and more lies, because settlers are not violent. 99.999% of them. Yes, there's a few violent people. There's violent people in every society, every region, every city, every country in the world. And guess what? When they're violent, they're caught by the police and they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of law. Anywhere that happens. In a democratic first world nation anyways. And Israel is happens to be a democratic leading first world nation. And anybody that commits violence is caught and apprehended and prosecuted under the fullest extent of the law, including 1 or 2 or 3 Israelis that commit acts of violence. But 99.9999% of all Israeli settlers are here peacefully. When the writer of this article is also accusing the IDF of committing violence, maybe she's talking about when Israel defends themselves against murderers and against terrorists because they don't want to get murdered, they don't want to get killed, and they don't want mothers with their 12-year-olds sitting in the back seat to be shot and killed like Batsheva was last week. This article gets worse. Therefore, it is grossly inaccurate to refer to any of the settlers in the West Bank who've made a conscious decision to live there as innocent civilians. We've established that they are criminals, that they use violence to sustain themselves there. And the third element is that they are there to achieve a political objective, which is the expansion of the state of Israel further into Palestinian territory. This writer makes such a gross, based, awful claim that Batsheva was a criminal and a terrorist. She was murdered by actual terrorists who blocked her road, hunted her down, and fired 22 bullets into the car where her daughter was sitting in the back seat, saw her mother murdered. This writer would even say that this young girl, this daughter, is also a criminal just for daring to live as a Jew in the land of Judea. They even go further to claim that people who are living in Judea and Samaria are expanding the state of Israel further into Palestinian territory. Tell me when this was ever Palestinian territory. Maybe under Ottoman Turkish rule, British mandate, Jordan when they were here for 19 years. Tell me when was it ever Palestinian territory. I'm just horrified at the new lows that a writer would go to claim that innocent civilians who are hunted down, shot, point blank in their cars on Israeli roads are actually the ones who are criminally responsible and defined as terrorists. simply because they're living in the land of Israel. The article goes on to talk about how the international law basically claims that Israel is the occupier of the, quote, West Bank because UN Security Council resolutions are binding and they designate Israel as the occupier. So I want to spend just a minute to tell you, because you will hear this claim from your friends, your family, your coworkers. You'll definitely hear it in the international mainstream media that Israel is in violation of international law. Now, it can be true that so-called scholars, experts, lawyers claim that Israel is in violation of international law, but it's not true that they are in violation. And I'll tell you why. Number one, UN General Assembly resolutions, non-binding, okay? UN Security Council resolutions, there's two types. Those passed under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which are supposed to be binding and enforceable by the UN, although I'm not sure how they would enforce it unless maybe they deploy UN peacekeeping troops. And then there's Security Council resolutions passed under Chapter 6 of the UN Charter, which are a bit more fuzzy because supposedly they're supposed to be binding, but they're not meant to be enforced, which is kind of an oxymoron in itself. Because if an international body like the United Nations is passing something that's supposed to be binding for its members, but they don't mean it to be really enforced, then what's the point even? And this brings me to my biggest point, in that the United Nations is a political body, not a legal body. All UN resolutions, General Assembly, Security Council resolutions passed under Chapter 6 or Chapter 7 are, wait for it, recommendations. Recommendations. The UN, they don't make law. They don't make international law. They don't enforce law. They don't make legal decisions. They make recommendations, and they have made a heck of a lot of recommendations, aka resolutions against Israel. An exponential, vastly superior number of resolutions against Israel than any other nation in the world combined. This brings us to the last point, the Fourth Geneva Convention, which I think we've already established Israel is absolutely not in violation of, because they've never forcibly or non-forcibly transported or deported their citizens into territory they've occupied. That's even assuming that they are occupying any part of Israel, which they're not, because Jordan was here for 19 years and the British before that and the Ottoman Turks. You guys get the idea. We've been over this. Here's the story. Israel won a defensive war in 1967. Jordan lost control of Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Here's the kicker. Palestinian Arabs in the region eventually agreed to an agreement, a mutual agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Arabs in the region to agree to the Oslo Accords, 1993, which arranged for them to set up a Palestinian Authority to control all of Area A, part of Area B. Israel would be in charge of security for Area B and control all of Area C, including allowing Israel to settle and live in Area C of Judea and Samaria. By the way, Israel has held up their end of the agreement. The Palestinians, including the Palestinian Authority, not so much. Even so much so that there's close to 100,000 illegal homes and structures in Area C of Judea and Samaria. So who's in violation of law, whether international or not here? You guys decide. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, especially about this horrific article. Check out the source links for yourselves. Guys, make sure you hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our content. Don't forget to buy beautiful boutique products from family-owned businesses in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Go to blessedbuisrael.com, link down in the description below, because that is the best way to support the Jewish people who are living in Israel's biblical heartland. Guys, make sure to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We are here every Monday through Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.